Egypt, 13th century BCE. A new pharaoh feared the growing Hebrew population and ordered that their infant sons be killed. A Hebrew mother hid her baby for 3 months, then sealed a small basket with tar, placed the child inside and set it among the reeds along the Nile. The baby's sister watched from a distance. Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe, saw the basket, and heard the cry. She drew the child out of the water, recognized he was Hebrew, and chose mercy. The sister stepped forward and offered to find a nurse. The princess agreed, and the baby's own mother nursed him until he was weaned. Then he was raised in Pharaoh's household, learning court customs and Egyptian learning, while never fully losing the thread of his people's story. Years later, as a grown man, Moses went out to see his people's labor. He saw an Egyptian overseer beating a Hebrew slave. He looked around, saw no one who would help, struck the overseer, and hid the body in the sand. The next day he tried to stop a fight between 2 Hebrews. One turned on him and said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us?" Fear rose. The matter was known. Pharaoh sought to kill him. Moses fled east across arid land into Midian. He sat down beside a well to rest. 7 sisters brought their father's flock to drink. Local shepherds tried to force them away. Moses stood up for them, drove the men back, and helped draw water until the animals were finished. The sisters told their father Reuel what had happened. Reuel invited Moses to eat and stay. In time, Moses married Reuel's daughter, Zipporah. He became a shepherd. The court-trained prince learned wind, rock, and quiet. He led sheep to distant grazing, learned the patterns of the seasons, and lived far from the politics of the Nile. One day, near Horeb, the mountain of God, he saw a bush that burned without burning out. The flame held steady. He turned aside to look. A voice called his name. He answered. He was told to remove his sandals. The ground was holy. The voice identified as the God of his fathers and said he had seen the misery of Israel, heard their cry, and had come down to bring them out. Moses was told to go to Pharaoh and lead the people out of Egypt. He shrank back. "Who am I to do this? If they ask your name, what shall I say? What if they do not believe me? I am slow of speech." The answers came in a steady order. "I will be with you. Say, I am sent you." Here are signs. His staff became a serpent and then wood again. His hand turned diseased and then clean. River water poured on the ground became blood. Aaron, his brother, would go with him to speak. The call would not be moved. Moses returned to Egypt with a staff in his hand, a family at his side, and a commission in his bones. He and Aaron stood before Pharaoh with simple words. "Let my people go so they may hold a festival in the wilderness." Pharaoh refused and punished the people. No more straw for bricks. The quota must not drop. The work grew cruel. The Hebrew overseers blamed Moses and Aaron for making them a stench in Pharaoh's eyes. Moses took the grief to God. God repeated the promise in slow, certain lines. "I will bring you out. I will free you. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. I will take you as my people." The confrontation unfolded in waves. The Nile turned to blood, and fish died. Frogs swarmed houses and beds. Gnats rose like dust. Flies blackened rooms. Disease struck the livestock. Boils broke out on skin. Hail shattered crops. Locusts stripped what remained. Darkness fell for 3 days. In each round, Pharaoh wavered, bargained, and then hardened his heart. The line between Egypt and Israel grew clear. The final night was different. Israel was told to prepare a lamb, roast it, and eat it with bitter herbs and unleavened bread, clothed for travel. They were told to mark their doorframes with the lamb's blood. At midnight a cry rose through Egypt. The firstborn died in houses without the mark. Pharaoh yielded at last. "Go, take your flocks and herds, bless me also." The people left in haste with dough on shoulders and valuables neighbors pressed into their hands. A night of sorrow in Egypt became a night of rescue for Israel and a memorial that would teach children why their bread is flat and their steps are quick on this night. Soon the dust of chariots rose behind them. Pharaoh had changed his mind again and moved to trap them at the sea's edge. Water stretched ahead. The army closed behind. The people panicked. Were there not graves in Egypt? Moses told them to stand firm and see deliverance. He lifted his staff as wind tore through the night. Waters rose like walls, and a path of dry ground opened. Israel walked between the waters, the sea shining strange in the moonlight. The chariots followed and sank as the ground turned to mud, and the waters returned. Dawn revealed bodies on the shore. On the far bank, Miriam took a timbrel and led the women in song. The slave nation stood on free ground. Freedom began with thirst, hunger, and lessons. At Marah, bitter water became sweet. In the wilderness of Sin, quail settled at evening, and in the morning a fine flake lay on the ground. They named it manna. What is it? Each person gathered enough for a day. When they tried to hoard, it spoiled. On the day before Sabbath, the excess held. Trust was learned one sunrise at a time. At Rephidim there was no water. People argued with Moses. He struck a rock at Horeb as instructed, and water rushed out into the dry. Amalek attacked from behind. Joshua led men into the fight. Moses stood on a hill with the staff raised. When his hands dropped, the tide turned. Aaron and Hur set a stone under him and held his hands up until sunset. The battle was won by effort and shared strength. 3 months after leaving Egypt, they camped at Sinai. The mountain shook, lightning flashed, trumpet sounds rolled over the rocks. The people stood at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. A covenant was given. If you listen and keep my covenant, you will be my treasured possession, a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. 10 words were spoken that would shape the people's life. No other gods, no carved image. Do not misuse the name. Keep the Sabbath. Honor parents. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not covet. Boundaries were set around the mountain. The people asked Moses to speak for them. He went up and down carrying law, warnings, and promises. Detailed plans followed for a tent of meeting at the center of the camp. Poles and curtains, bronze altars and a basin for washing, a gold lampstand shaped like almond branches, a table for bread, an ark with a mercy seat and winged figures bending over it. Priests were set apart with garments and oil. The heart of the nation became a movable sanctuary, a sign that presence would travel with them step by step. Time stretched, fear rose. In Moses' long absence on the mountain, the people demanded a God they could see. Aaron collected gold and formed a calf. They feasted and danced. Moses descended carrying tablets etched by the finger of God, saw the camp in disorder, and hurled the tablets to the ground. He burned the calf, ground it to powder, scattered it on water, and made the people drink it. He called for those who would stand with him. Judgment fell and the camp went silent. After grief, he climbed again and pleaded, "If you will not forgive them, blot me out of your book." Mercy was given with consequences. The journey would continue. Moses asked to see God's glory. He was told he would see goodness pass and hear the name. He returned with new tablets and a face that shone. He veiled his face so the people could bear to look while he taught. From Sinai they moved toward the land promised to their fathers. At Kadesh Barnea, on the southern edge, 12 men were sent to scout. They returned carrying a cluster of grapes so heavy 2 men bore it on a pole. 10 spoke fear. The people are strong, cities are fortified, giants live there. 2. Spoke trust. The land is good, God is able. Fear won the vote. The verdict was 40 years of wandering until the fearful generation died. A short journey became a long lesson. The road taught hard things. People complained about the bread, and venomous snakes struck. Moses lifted a bronze serpent on a pole. Those who looked lived. Miriam, the sister who watched the basket long ago and sang on the shore, died in the wilderness. Aaron, the brother who spoke for Moses, died on Mount Hor, and the priesthood passed to his son. Korah led a revolt against Moses and Aaron. The earth opened under tents and swallowed the rebellion. At Meribah, the people again demanded water. God told Moses to speak to the rock. Moses struck the rock instead, angry and tired. Water flowed, but the act cost him. He was told he would not enter the land. He would see it, bless the people, and hand the work to another. Victories came east of the Jordan. They asked passage through Edom and were refused, so they took the long way around. They fought Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, and took those lands. They camped on the plains of Moab, looking across the river at Jericho's palms. There Moses gathered the new generation, children, and young adults who had grown up on manna and marches, and he spoke plainly. He retold the road, restated the covenant, and set life and death, blessing and curse, in front of them. Choose life that you and your children may live. He warned that forgetting would lead to exile and promised that turning back would be met with mercy. He taught them a song naming God's faithfulness and human drift. He blessed each tribe in words that matched their place and future. He called Joshua son of Nun before the people and laid hands on him so courage and authority would be clear. Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo. From the ridge he saw the Jordan glint and the land sweep west valleys and hills promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He saw what he would not touch. He died there, as God had said. He was buried in a place no one knows. Israel wept for 30 days. Joshua rose, took command, and led the people across the river on dry ground, with stones stacked at the camp to mark the crossing. The story moved forward with new feet, guided by a law learned in the desert and a presence that had not left them. The line of his life runs clear. A child pulled from water becomes a man who lifts a nation through water. A prince who runs becomes a shepherd who learns to listen. A reluctant messenger stands before a throne and speaks for the voiceless. A leader carries a people who test him and pleads for them when they fail. He teaches a nation to center life on presence, to measure days by trust, and to wield power in service of those bent under weight. Carry these patterns now. Turn aside when something small burns steady. The call may be waiting in the margin of your day. Ask for help where you lack and move anyway. Place presence at the center of your work and build rhythms that protect it. Accept the long route if it keeps your soul intact. Let daily provision be enough today and refuse to hoard fear for tomorrow. When your arms shake, invite 2 friends to hold them up until the sun goes down. When anger rises, strike fewer things. When people fail, plead for them, then lead them again. From a basket in reeds to a palace hall, from a shepherd's path to a throne room, from a sea road to a mountain cloud, from a desert march to a ridge with a view, the story holds together. The road out of Egypt is more than a route on a map. It is a pattern of rescue, patience, courage, and covenant. It moves every time someone hears a cry, speaks truth to power, and keeps walking when the sand runs long and the promise seems far, trusting that water will come from rock and that tomorrow's bread will be on the ground at dawn.